Hi, it's Lauren from Lauren Chapel Pilates, and today I want to start the video with something a little bit different. Before I tell you how Pilates instructors can hit £500 of earnings per day, I want to tell you about a Pilates gig I did where I lost money and the class had 50 people in it. I am going to come back to that at the end because I think it is one of the most important takeaways of this video, and it's the perfect example of why a full class doesn't necessarily mean that an instructor is earning well. But first, let's talk about what £500 in a single day realistically looks like, where your starting point is, and which path will get you there the fastest depending on where you are now. Whether you're just qualified, a few years in, or you're wondering if your pay has just plateaued, this is for you. We're going to do the actual maths, and I'm going to be honest with you about what's achievable and when. Spoiler alert, this is not a video where I'm going to give you a couple of quick tips and you're going to wake up tomorrow suddenly earning £500. This is more of a roadmap on how to work smarter, not harder, be strategic about your income and the opportunities you take within the Pilates industry before you burn out. And I just want to mention that all of the pathways I'm going to discuss with you are freelancer or sole trader. So we're not talking about opening up your own studio, nor are we talking about an employment track. Let's put that number into context. £500 in a day. As a self-employed instructor, that means £500 worth of actual booked sessions in one day, not an average salary spread across a year. If you're teaching group classes at £35 a session, which is a standard starting rate, you need over 14 classes a day. I don't know about you, that's not happening. I think my record is 10 in a day, and I've done that maybe 2 or 3 times in my career. Although for a long time, I did teach 8 a day on a Friday. £60 per hour, which is what you would get as a very experienced instructor working for someone else, you'd need about 8 sessions per day. As we said, it's achievable. I did that for quite a while, but it is a very long day, and ultimately why I stopped doing 8 a day. At £100 a session, then you only need 5. Still a little bit of a tiring day, but very, very achievable. And if you're charging £150 an hour for private sessions, then you only need to work 4 hours a day. So the question actually isn't, can you make £500 a day as an instructor? It's what rate do you need to be at and how do you get there? And that depends entirely on which pathway you're building. So let's go through them. So pathway number 1 is your group classes. This is what we talk about most here, is how to become an instructor of group classes. And it is arguably where there's the most work and the easiest pathway to get started on. They're a very good foundation. They get you loads of experience. They also get you guaranteed work. While I don't want to play too loose with the word guaranteed, you do have regular weekly hours. So if you are at a relatively established studio, unlike if you've got private clients or if you're working as a sort of more limited company where the salary is up and down, your rates and your hours and your income is going to be far more predictable month to month, day to day. But in terms of our £500 a day goal, let's see what the maths looks like. When you first start out, you can expect to be at around £30 to £35 per class. Can you get 60 and above in a group studio setting? Absolutely. But it's not common. And if I'm honest, it's definitely not what a new instructor will get. You have to have the experience to back you. We're talking years, not months of experience. We're talking strong client retention rates and a genuine professional reputation. You can actually make even more than 60 an hour. I've seen 75 plus, and that's not necessarily celebrity status for group classes, but it is proven retention. And you have to think that the company needs to be earning more than 75 per class on average to justify paying you that for every class. Take 10, take 11, take 12, take 1,516 at this point right now. I don't know why I can't get the words out of my mouth. Just think about it as the higher the rate, the more checkboxes are there to fill. Damn it. We're going to keep that because I swear to God, we understand what I mean. 5 classes at 60 is 300 a day. And I'm using the number of 5 because that's kind of a realistic block that you can find, an amount of hours that you can work. Sometimes you'll divide that into a 3 and a 2. Sometimes it will be a straight 5. But group teaching on its own, unless you're highly, highly experienced and are getting high rates and high retention, are not going to get you to hit £500 a day on their own. It doesn't mean that group teaching isn't worth building. It 100% is, but the group classes, they are your foundation, not your ceiling. So pathway 2 is your private one-on-one sessions. And here we're going to take it in the context of a private home studio. This doesn't mean multiple reformers. If you've got a single reformer and a mat, then that's kind of what I'm talking about here. So private one-on-one sessions are per hour, often the most high earning part of an instructor's week, and they deserve a little bit of time in this conversation. So with a home setup, you can easily charge around £100 an hour for a private one-on-one session. And if you're clear at maths, 5 sessions at £100 would equal your $500 a day. But let's be clear about this. A home studio is far more of a kind of business setup and does have costs about running it. Even if you're operating as a sole trader or freelancer, there are costs and there is extra work, a lot of extra work layered on top of that. Either you are going to have to put a lot of time and or money into marketing, sales, logistics, operations, or in terms of your marketing and sales, you're going to be having to do your group classes at a studio that doesn't mind that you offer the private one-on-one sessions, as a lot of studios won't like you advertising that. Having home one-on-one sessions, it is still a process that's going to take time, especially if you want to have those 5 hours closely stacked together. But building your client base, it is going to come a lot from your group classes. You can, of course, as well do social media, and you have to prove yourself in the classes. So it's not as if they're going to book a private with you if they don't enjoy your classes that much and can see you don't have that much expertise. Moving on to pathway number 3, leadership and management. And this is one I want to spend a little bit of extra time on because it never comes up in conversations about Pilates instructor income. And I think part of that is because it's a relatively new thing that we're seeing. It used to be something far more rare that the owner would do. But now with so many studios opening, franchises and multi-studios that have multiple locations, management roles such as lead instructors, senior instructors, and instructor development roles are starting to be more and more commonplace, especially where people from outside of the Pilates world involved in business and investment are investing into opening studios and are taking the route of onboarding someone as a consultant or a leader who does know about the Pilates industry. So these kind of jobs, they kind of comprise of studio operations, curriculum oversight, cover location, instructor mentoring, concept development, team building, you name it. It's kind of different from studio to studio from what I've seen, but work that uses your expertise as an instructor, but in a more strategic or administrative capacity rather than a instructor or teaching one. And I'm predicting these roles are going to become more and more commonplace over the years as studios do grow and do need leadership, because staff retention and community is going to start to become really important. The structure of this kind of work varies. I've seen it done a few different ways. You can have, say, for example, a monthly retainer, or maybe it charges per hour, or you have a consultancy rate that depends on a defined scope of work and a certain number of hours or tasks per month. Now, the beautiful thing about these kind of roles is a lot of the work can be done remotely. It can be done flexibly around your teaching schedule. And while the pay per hour might equate to your instructor rate, or in fact, less than your instructor rate, it is work that you can take with you on your bad days, or if you're on holiday. It is income that you're still going to have. We can't teach if we're not in place. So maybe that remote income gives you a few extra hours of work, a little bit of extra income with a little bit more certainty that you're going to earn it that month. Because of course you can get sick or trains can get cancelled, in which case you don't get paid. So this is a role I've generally seen requires at least a couple of years experience. It does require, as well as your expertise in Pilates, it does require a second skill set, which is organization, management, and a little bit of business background or understanding, but a lot of studios work to develop that with you and you kind of learn that as you go along. Pathway number 4 is teacher trainings. Another pathway that's often overlooked is training other instructors on teacher trainings, whether that's as a regular part of an established education or as a guest for one-off workshops. As you build experience and specialization, you start to become someone that educators want to bring in. Maybe you have a particular methodology or a particular background, or you've become known for a specific approach, or your classes are just simply fully booked week in, week out, and you have the secret sauce that everyone wants to know. Now, the pay for this work really varies. I've seen it vary from almost like £25 an hour to about £100 an hour, but it does come with an added benefit of being very deeply interesting for you. You're engaging with Pilates at a different level when you're speaking to teachers rather than members. And maybe that's one of the things that got you into it in the first place, was kind of like the nerdiness of it. How long until you can get to that stage? It varies quite a lot, but I would say probably about 3 years if you're doing it full time. And very similarly to classes, it is something that kind of compounds over time. So you might start out earning less to start with and more in a few years as your reputation and the demand for you builds. And then if you eventually want to run your own workshops, under your own name and your own reputation, either visiting other studios who commission you to teach their team, or if you want to host one which individuals book onto, then working within existing educations first is a really natural pathway to that. So the last pathway we're going to talk about, and this is kind of the ceiling earnings. The highest earning version of Pilates education is the workshop and methodology training at the very top of the industry. There are instructors who have built significant professional profiles through long-term careers in a method who are charging £3,000 to £4,000 for a 5-hour workshop. And now let's remember we're talking about per day earnings, because there are plenty of other pathways that are kind of a little bit more spread out. So there are things like owning a studio, having brand collaborations, working on certain projects. But this video is very much focused on how much can you earn in one day. And that is the highest I have seen. That instructor, however, do bear in mind that this instructor is not earning that 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. And this particular instructor, and I'm sure many others, they are also combining that with appearing at conferences. And I believe they run their own studio as well, and still teaching member classes, because you still have to have hype among the members. Even when you're at the top of the game, you can't step away entirely from teaching your group classes all the way back at the foundation. One, because that's where you're developing the craft of teaching. And two, it's how you build reputation. People in your classes are future instructors who might want to learn from you. So is this something that is going to come in your first few years as an instructor? Definitely not. If you do, please DM me and let's make a video together, because I would love to share that with everyone. And I would like to know myself. But this level of pay comes with a level of authority that takes so much time to build, and deliberate positioning. So the thing worth noting here is that the bulk of income is not coming from class hours, but through teacher education and training other instructors. So that tells you something about the long game earning potential and where it actually lives in this industry. If you've gotten up till here, well done. Now we're actually going to talk about how we move that needle, because I've seen a lot of instructors in this industry for years still earning the same to what they did 5-10 years ago. And I'm going to run through the things that I've actually seen work and that have worked for me, even though I'm not on that £4,000 a day just yet. I have managed to move my income from that starting rate to a pretty decent income. If my family and friends didn't watch these videos, I would disclose it. Sorry, Mum, I just don't want you to know. So the first thing is understanding how the progression works within the studios. Many of them will have very clear frameworks. So they will say to earn X amount, you need to have achieved X amount, whether this be class retention rates, educations, attendance, how much time you book off is something studios will note, and kind of just genuine long-term investment and how you behave with the rest of the team. If you're looking into those leadership roles, you need to be a leader before you're in those roles. Second part of this is finding people you like working with. You are not going to get your income up overnight. And to prevent yourself from burning out, you actually need to feel like you're in a good environment for you. Third part, if you're watching this video around the time of me making it, you are in the peak of opportunity right now, where studios and franchises are opening up. Pilates is going from being a wellness industry to being a little bit more corporate. There are pros and cons of this, but this does mean where all of those leadership opportunities and senior roles are existing. A lot of studios aren't necessarily going to bring someone externally. They're going to recruit from within. So be on the OG team at that studio, and that will fast track your progression a little bit. And lastly, build your private clients early. Just like anything, how to conduct a private or one-on-one session is a skill in and of its own. So start offering that soon, word of mouth will spread, and people will actually attribute their results to you from the get-go rather than Pilates in general. So how do Pilates instructors actually earn £500 a day? If you're in the early stages of your teaching career, pick studios with either with clear progressions or high ambitions, and start building your private clients now. Your £500 a day is definitely a few years away, and that's fine, but plan for it and set your eyes to it. If you're mid-career, you're probably mixing group classes, maybe with a bit more of a solid one-on-one base, and maybe at slightly higher rates. But the lever to pull here, if you haven't already, is your rates and diversification. Are you actually charging what you're worth for private sessions? And are you exploring management roles, teacher training roles, and work that pays on your experience, not just your hours? And if you're at the established end of this trajectory, again, you can pull the lever rate a little bit, but this is where I'd really start to explore teacher training and building that following up if you really want to get to those higher rates. Maybe even leveraging private clients and trying to set up a home studio if you don't have one already to be able to conduct those £100 an hour plus sessions. So well done for making it here. If you remember, I told you at the beginning, I'd tell you how I actually lost money having a class with 50 people. It was a community class and it was outdoors and it was donation based. So that meant that people didn't have to pay, but the suggested was about £10 an hour. So one class would equal £500 if everyone paid for that, right? However, the temptation when it's outdoors is to offer it donation-based purely for the passion. And the people that it attracted, whilst some of them definitely did pay, the majority weren't looking something they had to pay for. So when it came to the end of summer and I wanted to move it indoors, very few people showed up. And obviously when it's a venue, you start having to pay for it. And I had maybe 10 regular people, which almost just broke even on most weeks. But on the weeks where fewer showed up, it actually started to become a loss. Now, can community classes work? Because the argument I hear sometimes is maybe you just hire out a town hall and, have 50 people show up and that's good earnings. But think about that, because you've got all of your following in one class. Can you repeat that 3 or 4 times a week? So can you have 250 people showing up to your 1 hour work a day? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I've not seen it be super common. But again, you're going to achieve that 5 days a week because £500 a day is great. But £500 a week, depends where you're living in your costs. That's far more in line with lower end of the income scale. But the reason I kind of wanted to end on that was I think it captures something quite important about the industry, which is that a full class doesn't necessarily mean an instructor is earning well. And every single pathway we've discussed today has a different version of that lesson kind of baked within it. Understand your model, know your numbers, and make sure when the room is repeatedly full that you're being paid for that. If you're just starting out as an instructor and you do want to know a little bit more about setting your rates and what to expect, then do feel free to watch my video on that posted here. And then as usual, if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below or DM me directly on Instagram at Lauren Chapel Pilates. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.